Welcome into another episode of Snakes Territory. I'm Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers. And yes, it is true. Jack, it is June 15th, not exactly trade season per se, and yet we have what might very well go down as the biggest trade made at the trade deadline, as the Giants have not officially as of the time of this recording, but it's been confirmed by a number of people, the Giants acquiring Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox in exchange for four different players. It's left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison, of course, is in the majors, righty Jordan Hicks, as well as James Tibbs, an outfield prospect that the Giants just drafted in the first round, and then a right-handed pitching prospect in Jose Bello. Of course, the NL West was not difficult enough as it already is. So here we go. Rafael Devers is now joining the NL West.
Yeah, a team that has a fantastic 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation and the best bullpen in the league, and an offense that was maybe struggling a little bit, just picked up, one of the best bats in the game. Incredible. As Torey Lovullo said today, all the good players come to the NL West. It must be a rule or something. They just keep piling up in this division. So a team that was already going to be very, very difficult to run down just got that much harder.
So how good is Rafael Devers? This season, he is hitting .271 with an .894 OPS. That was entering play on Sunday. I guess those numbers changed slightly. That's a 149 OPS plus. Pretty good. The Giants obviously have had a really, really good season overall. They are very much in good position to make the playoffs. And I think their biggest flaw, Jack, was pretty obviously the middle of that lineup. It's hard to do much better as far as upgrades go than to bring in somebody like Rafael Devers.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a bat, where are you going to find anybody better, for sure? Especially since they struggled big time at first base. Lamont Wade Jr. ended up getting DFA'd. Now they're rolling with Dominic Smith, and Matt Chapman is on the injured list and probably going to be there for at least another 3 or 4 weeks. He jammed 3 fingers, his hand's in a splint, and he's not able to resume rehab program for another week. So he, speaking to Casey Schmidt, said you're going to have to hold down the fort basically for another 3 or 4 weeks. But the Giants have not issued an official timeline. So the question becomes, will Casey Schmidt continue to play third base? Will Devers start to take some reps over at third? All 72 of his games this year have been at DH.
So yeah, I mean, that's really my big question here is what are the Giants going to do with Devers, both in the short term when Chapman is hurt and in the long term once Chapman returns? We know there's a bit of history with Devers and the Boston Red Sox wanting him to DH and then wanting him to play first base, and those things not going over very well. Of course, he ultimately has DH'd the entire season for them, as you said, but it does seem like a bit of an odd fit here, Jack, that Devers went from one team with a Gold Glove third baseman to another team with a Gold Glove third baseman. Matt Chapman, when healthy, is probably the best player on the Giants, or at least was the best position player on the Giants prior to this move being made. So it's a weird fit, but from the Giants' perspective, I mean, I think this is a no-brainer. I don't want to say that the Giants sent nothing to the Red Sox here. I mean, that, like James Tibbs is a good prospect, just a first-round pick a year ago, and Kyle Harrison and Jordan Hicks are a couple of pitchers that are helpful. I don't know if either of those guys are going to be ace caliber arms anytime soon, but you have to believe, Jack, that for the Red Sox, this really just came down to getting off of the Devers contract, which I know it's very early in that contract and Devers is still hitting really well. But when you have a guy who has big time questions on defense and he's in the second year of a 10-year, $300+ million contract, that doesn't exactly project out very well for you. And I'm sure that was a big part of this for the Red Sox, was getting rid of that contract, even though they're not getting a ton in return. But also, it isn't the best of look on the Red Sox side of things, Jack. They already, of course, really bungled the Mookie Betts situation, of course, and here they are trading another superstar player to the NL West.
Yeah. I mean, from the Giants angle, although there's a temptation perhaps on the part of Diamondbacks fans, ha ha ha, you just signed a $300 million DH. The fact is that, up until 2019, the Giants drew 3 million fans a year. And they've been over 500,000 short of that the last several seasons. This year, they're 8th of 15th. So, if Devers helps get them to the World Series again, and that pumps up their season ticket base and walk-up sales again, and they get back in the 3 million range next year, then they're going to pay for that deal or the excess of that deal. Matt Chapman signed through 2030, so Devers is never going back to third base. I mean, that's not going to happen. Whether or not he gives in and says, "Okay, I'll play first base," or maybe they, have our good help me out here, Jesse. Who's the DH in San Francisco? His name just
Wilmer Flores. Yeah.
Why did that name just leave me? So maybe the right-handed Wilmer Flores and Dominic Smith has taken over 10 games from the left side over at first base. Maybe those guys platoon over at first, and Devers is just the everyday DH. I don't know. He refused to play first base for the Red Sox. Will he play first base for the Giants? Maybe it's a wake-up call for him, or maybe he says, no, I'm still not playing first base. So, we'll just have to see what happens there. But I have to think that from the Giants' perspective, they're not going to take on a $300 million contract or 270 of it's left or whatever without some inkling of, what they can do with Devers. There must have been some behind-the-scenes conversations there. There's just no way a team makes that kind of investment. So if everyone's wondering why we're talking about the Giants and Rafael Devers, this is big news. This impacts the NL West big time for 2025 and beyond. It definitely impacts the D-backs' chances to run down the Giants. It impacts, how they're going to compete going forward. That team with a good offense is a pretty scary team.
We're not a Giants podcast, Jack, and we're certainly not a Red Sox podcast either. But can I just say that I do not understand this from the Red Sox perspective. I mean, I do in that, like I said earlier, they're wanting to get off this contract. But Rafael Devers is a really big part of the baseball culture in Boston. I mean, he's the star on that team. He's the guy that Red Sox fans go out to the park to see play every day. And this is not a Red Sox team, Jack, that is out of the postseason picture. I mean, they are very much cemented in the postseason picture as of right now. They are sitting, as of the time of recording, at 37 and 36. So I guess technically they're on the outside of the playoff picture, but they're only half a game away from that third wild card spot. They've won 5 in a row. They just swept the Yankees of all teams, and they're right in the middle of this thing. And I don't think there's any arguing that this trade makes the Red Sox better right now. There have already been reports that they're sending Kyle Harrison down to AAA. Jordan Hicks hasn't had a good season, and obviously Tibbs and Bello are not going to help them anytime soon. So, man, I feel for Red Sox fans on a day like this, Jack, because they've already been through it with Mookie Betts, like I said earlier. And this is just another example of the Red Sox just not really acting like the Red Sox anymore and developing these young star players. And yes, they did extend Devers, which was a great look for them. And now, the second year of that contract, they're already moving that contract elsewhere.
Well, maybe what's going on here is this money can then be used for Liverpool to sign Florian Wirtz. So,
I don't know if
maybe that's what they're thinking about. I mean, they're using money that they're saving on the Red Sox for their soccer team.
I don't think that's going to make Red Sox fans any happier.
I'm not here to make them any happier.
Clearly not. So the Giants get a whole lot more interesting. I kind of viewed them as a team that was playing great and had a pretty solid chance to make the playoffs based on where they stood, but I didn't really view the Giants as being a sure thing. Now with Devers in the middle of that lineup, it's kind of hard for me to imagine the Giants not being there at the end of the season. certainly makes things more difficult for the Diamondbacks, along with all of the other contenders in the NL wildcard picture. So crazy news for this to happen in the middle of June. I mean, just totally unexpected. When I saw that tweet come out from Robert Murray, he was the first one to report it. I was like, all right, like I don't often assume this, but I wonder if Robert Murray just got hacked, because it took a couple minutes for anyone else to confirm it, and it just felt like such a wild thing for the Red Sox to do, especially given the timing of this. So crazy move all the way around, and doesn't make the Diamondbacks job any easier.
Well,
But
it's a good thing that they just won the series against the Padres. I'm giving you your segue here.
yes, thank you.
Because they're certainly looking to be a lot easier to run down than the Giants at this point.
That is a great segue, Jack. So yes, the Diamondbacks. We are a Diamondbacks podcast, and they just took 2 out of 3 from the Padres over the weekend. A big series win for them with a just unbelievable comeback on Saturday. We're going to dive into all of that on the other side of this break.
Kratz, you look different today. Do I see Chubby's shorts on your shoulder?
Oh, the sick design. I mean, don't even get it twisted too, because the lining normally is like an SOS pad. This lining that's in the center is so soft, so smooth. The outside, so many things to choose from on chubbyshorts.com.
Facts. And the code FOUL for 20% off. I got the Tiger Sharks.
Ooh-wee.
Little blend of a tiger and a shark. It's beautiful. So don't wait. For a very limited time, shop Chubby's biggest sale of the year, $45 shorts and up to 65% off select gear. Hit up chubbyshorts.com and grab your favorites before they're gone. If you miss the sale, then use the FT code, FOUL in lowercase, for 20% off. Support FT, let them know we sent you when the survey asks, and get ready to turn some heads. Summer's here, dress like it in Chubby's.
Well, Jack, it ended in bummer fashion with an 8-2 loss on Sunday. The vibes are a little bit less sweeter now with the Diamondbacks than they were about 24 hours ago. But nonetheless, they took 2 out of 3 from the Padres. This was a really, really important series win for them.
Yeah, and it was very impressive, really. I mean, the first 2 games, the way that all went down, the turnaround that happened after the second inning in game 1, where they went from playing kind of sloppy to all of a sudden locking it in and playing perfect defense from the second inning, once the second inning concluded onwards, and got all the timely hits, got all the pitching they needed to win that game. And then, of course, the incredible, historical comeback down 7-3, scoring 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th to win Saturday night. It's just incredible. I mean, it was one of the most joyous things to see Geraldo Perdomo kind of get up slowly, totally exhausted, and then celebrate with his teammates. I asked him after the game, I said, hey, you got up a little slow there. Were you winded from your 3-run triple and then having to score at home on that chopper to first baseman Arise? And he looked and he goes, yeah, man, I'm getting old, said our 25-year-old shortstop.
Yeah, fact check. Geraldo Perdomo is in fact not getting old. I had the misfortune, Jack, as you know, of actually covering the Padres on Saturday. I also covered the Padres on Friday. Did some fill-in work for MLB.com. Kind of fun being back out at the ballpark doing some writing. But yeah, I will just tell people the very obvious thing, that clubhouse was not in great shape after the incredible D-backs comeback on Saturday night. It was very clear that the Padres had set themselves up to win that game, and yet they just weren't able to finish it off. You could maybe have your conspiracy theories about whether the Padres shouldn't have gone to Robert Suarez because it went from a save situation, a 5-3 lead, to a non-save situation. The Padres tacked on a couple runs in the top of the 9th inning. Some sloppy D-backs defense allowed that to happen. But then, yeah, Robert Suarez came in the bottom of the 9th and just clearly was not himself. It was single for the D-backs 7, 8, 9 hitters. And then Corbin Carroll struck out. And then Ketel Marte somehow beat out an infield hit on a bang play at first base. He was originally called out, and then it was overturned, and he was ruled safe. And the game ended on another bang play, Jack, with Geraldo Perdomo just barely sneaking his hand in before a tag from the Padres catcher. And that play, of course, was also reviewed, and we had to wait to see if the game was actually over at that point. So just the closeness of those plays, the fact that the Diamondbacks did all of this with only one out was ever recorded in that ninth inning, it was just unbelievable to watch.
An interesting little anecdote on Perdomo coming home. That was supposed to be a see-it-through play. In other words, with the infield drawn in, he was not supposed to go unless the ball got through. He was supposed to see that ball through, and he just took off on contact and just read it and made it. So some people were wondering, did the third base coach hold him or call it? No, that's a play called from the bench. That the way that with the infield in, that's how they wanted him to play it. But he just made an instinctual play, and he was safe, and it worked. And everybody laughed and had a good time. Had he been out, it might not have been the same thing.
I thought it was interesting that Josh Naylor was actually not credited with a single there, because my understanding, Jack, is that Perdomo scored before Naylor even got to first base. So it wasn't even technically a Josh Naylor walk-off single. It was just like a Perdomo scores from third before anything else happened and the game is suddenly over. So kind of funny the way things worked out there. I'm not sure Naylor pictured, like a slow roller up the first baseline as being like the walk-off hit of his dreams necessarily. But that's what it took to complete one of the most remarkable comebacks in Diamondbacks history, really, even though it might not feel like that, because apparently, Jack, the Diamondbacks do these kinds of things all the time now. It was just about 10 days ago we were talking about them overcoming a 6-run deficit in the ninth inning against the Atlanta Braves. So it just goes to show the 2025 Diamondbacks, they are never out of a game. And on the flip side, they are never quite guaranteed to win a game either, given the state of this bullpen.
Basically, no lead is safe regardless of which team we're talking about.
Yes. Well said. Other takeaways from this series, Jack. We can talk about some of the hitters. We mentioned Perdomo. He had a good series overall, 4 for 12 with that triple that tied the game and really ultimately led to that win for the Diamondbacks. He also doubled in the series. Gino Suarez continues to hit home runs for days. He only had 2 hits in the series, but both of them went over the fence. He hit a 2-run shot in the Sunday game that didn't wind up leading to anything, but the 3-run home run that he hit on Saturday, of course, was very important. Yeah, just a well-rounded offensive attack there for the Diamondbacks. On the pitching side, Jack, Ryan Nelson was pretty good in the game on Monday. 5 innings, 1 run. It was technically an unearned run. He continues to be a pretty solid option for the D-backs in this rotation. And then Zac Gallen and Merrill Kelly kind of just okay in the games on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, for Nelson, I think everyone knows by now that he was sick in bed with a stomach bug for several days, and finally kind of recovered the day before his start. So, but he was, probably held short at 79 pitches, in part because of that. He'd thrown 77 pitches the outing before, but it was just 3 innings, and this was 5 innings. So, Zac Gallen, once again, just lost his command. I mean, he was excellent through 4 innings. He was pitching really well. I think it was 12 of 14 first pitch strikes at one point. And then he just lost the strike zone and lost his release point and couldn't, throw strikes, basically. He walked 2 in the 5th. He walked another one in the 6th. There was a walk in the 7th. And it was obvious to me from the 6th inning that should have been his last inning. And I kind of challenged Torre on that a little bit today, because he said, well, I felt like Zach deserved a chance. And, I bit my tongue a little bit. I wanted to say, what about the other 25 guys? What do they deserve? But more or less the line I was going for and what I asked Torre is it hard coming to grips with the fact that Zac Gallen is no longer the same pitcher he was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And do you need to make an adjustment there? I mean, do you need to be a little quicker to recognize that he's losing the strike zone? The guy leads the league in walks, and this has been going on for a long time. So, Torre needs to be quicker to understand where Zac is at in his outing. For me, the first pitch that he threw to Gavin Sheets in the 7th inning was a 1.5 feet wide, arm side fastball.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, nope. That's it. That's my last batter. But he didn't have anybody up, and then it took another batter after that, hitting a double before he got Ryan Thompson up. So, and I pushed Torrey on that today. I think that he really needs to make an adjustment here.
I think that's fair. We've seen this a couple times, right, where Gallen is pretty good through 6, and then Torrey goes back to him for the 7th, and then he blows up on him, and 6 innings, 2 runs turns into 6 1/3, 4 runs, or whatever it might be. We've seen that played over a few times. Looking at his splits this season, Jack, Gallen, the first time through the order, has an opponent OPS of 729. Second time is 681. Third time it bumps up to 842. In the 7th inning in particular, Gallen has an opponent OPS of 1,037, a 375 opponent batting average. Granted, you're talking about a pretty small sample size of plate appearances in the 7th inning there, but I think it just underscores what you're saying, that, Zac Gallen of a couple years ago, Zac Gallen of even last year, there's quite a bit of reason to have some leash there, like he's your guy. But Zac Gallen in 2025 has just not been the same pitcher. And I agree with you. The sooner the Diamondbacks recognize that and adjust to that, probably the better for them.
Yeah, that's well said.
We have some other things to get to. We're going to talk about Mike Hazen here in a moment. He made some very interesting comments on MLB Network Radio about his approach at the trade deadline. But first, Jack, we have to talk about, of course, elbow surgery, which seems to be the theme of the 2025 season for the Diamondbacks. We got confirmation early in the weekend that Justin Martinez was officially having not Tommy John surgery. Technically, it's going to be the internal brace procedure. So maybe you're looking more at 12 months there instead of 14 for whatever that's worth. But he's having that surgery. AJ Puk had a setback and is seeking a second opinion. Certainly sounds like, or seeking an opinion of Dr. Neil Elatrash in Los Angeles, which it feels like we kind of know where that's headed. And then what came out today, Jack, on Sunday when you were at the ballpark, was that Tommy Henry also recently placed on the injured list with elbow trouble, and it sounds like he might be headed in that direction as well.
Yeah, Tommy had an MRI and he's seeking second opinions. So that's unfortunate for him as well. He wasn't pitching very well this year, but he was still a depth option for either long relief or maybe even a spot start. And that's just one more man down for the Diamondbacks as far as, any potential long relief or starting depth. And it really does look and sound like AJ Puk is headed for surgery. At this point, I would be very surprised if it's not. And then on top of all of that, Christian Montes de Oca is having surgery, but not on his elbow. He's having surgery for a lumbar issue. He's got to have lower back surgery. It's something that he had been bothering him on and off since spring, and he was trying to manage and play through it or work through it. And people can question that if that's a good idea to do or not. I don't know. But the bottom line is that he no longer can manage it. Now, this is tinfoil hat, me speculating. I kind of have a feeling that the elbow injury probably was going to keep him out for a couple months anyway. And the back was getting harder and harder to deal with. So it might have made sense to just go ahead and have the back taken care of because he needed to be shut down for so long for the elbow. So that's my own hypothesis. I'm not sure that that's correct, but bottom line, he's out for the year with back surgery.
So as far as the Diamondbacks starting pitching depth, Jack, you've got the 5 guys in the rotation, right? Gallen, Kelly, Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt, Eduardo Rodriguez, right? Those are your 5. And then behind him, Bryce Jarvis was just sent down to AAA. I guess he's still stretched out and could be an option for you in the rotation if needed. The D-backs just signed Anthony DeSclafani to a minor league deal, which is then turned into a major league deal, I guess. And he is now with the big league club. We saw him pitch on Sunday, gave up a couple of runs. So he's in the picture as a potential option. But beyond that, Jack, they're pretty thin right now. Yumin Lin, of course, is in AAA. He's not pitching particularly well, but I guess he's in the picture there. They're just Christian Mena, of course, is hurt. Blake Walston had Tommy John surgery a long time ago at this point. Tommy Henry, you mentioned, is going through what he's going through. It's just piling up here, Jack, to the point where a team that at one point felt like it had a lot of starting pitching depth now has very, very little after the top 5 guys that are in the majors right now.
Yeah, if I ever talk about the D-backs having a lot or too much starting pitching depth, just punch me in the face. Like, there is no such thing.
Yeah,
it just doesn't exist.
And Mike Hazen even used that. Mike Hazen even used that verbiage before the season started, right? Talking about, he seemed to believe that. Like, on paper, it was kind of true, but baseball just has a way of humbling people who think they have enough pitching.
You never do. It just doesn't exist.
So yeah, so the Diamondbacks are in a tricky spot there. Is there something you wanted to add on that front?
Well, I just wanted to add also, other than Yumin Lin, you have Dylan Ray and Spencer Giesting that were promoted, and neither of them are, having a smooth transition to AAA, the PCL as well. They're getting beat up pretty good. So right now the PCL rotation is, giving up runs left and right, which, that's the nature of the beast there, but there is no guy that's riding into the rescue. It's going to take help from the outside to provide depth, and they're going to need to do it pretty soon.
Well, speaking of help from the outside, Mike Hazen just went on the radio and made some interesting comments about his approach at the trade deadline. So we are going to dive into that on the other side of this break here on Snakes Territory.
It's summertime, and if you want to let it all flow out, but the hair is thinning, there is a solution for you. And Kratz, it's called Nutrafol. Tell the people what they need to do.
It's easy. You just got to hit up Nutrafol.com and use our code FOUL. And I'll tell you why, because you're going to have thicker hair. That's it. If that's your desire, you want thicker hair, there's no other place to go than Nutrafol.com and use the code FOUL for us.
#1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, they're offering the FT fam $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and you enter the promo code FOUL, F-O-U-L. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair.
Well, in our last show here on Snakes Territory, I sat down with Nick Picoro of the Arizona Republic, does a great job covering the D-backs. We talked about the team's approach at the trade deadline, along with a number of other topics. If you haven't heard that episode already, be sure to go check it out on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. But we did get some more clarity on this front, Jack, with a recent interview that Mike Hazen did over on MLB Network Radio. And before we dive in, we're just going to play a clip. This is about 2 minutes. It's a little on the longer side, but we think there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So we're going to hear what Hazen has to say over on MLB Network Radio, and we'll break it down here in a moment.
It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that line of thought. I get it. Yes, it probably objectively makes a lot of sense to want to, load up for some imaginable future. I would have thought I'd have Corbin Burns and Justin Martinez and AJ Puck for the entirety of this season. That didn't go that great for us. So, me planning for acquiring 10 prospects that may or may not make us a good team, it's just hard for me to wrap my brain around that. It's hard for me to watch how hard these guys are grinding every day and then take the trap door and rip it out from underneath them, honestly. And we kind of do these jobs to take shots and win. Those 4 guys that you mentioned, I built the team with those 4 guys knowing they were going to be free agents at the end of the year. And we had every intention of going for it with that same collection of guys. And so, look, as long as we're playing well, and I believe that this team has the gas in the tank to go get it, we're going to try to add to this team. I don't really find it all that fun to sit there in August and September and go to the ballpark every day, knowing you're going to get your butt kicked. Like, that's not really exciting for me, to be honest with you. I've done that for a few seasons, and that stinks. And I have no real intention to go and do that, in all honesty. Now, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to sit there and just, throw bad money after bad. If, we're not in a position, we take on more injuries, our depth gets thinned out to the point where it's going to be very hard for us to cobble something together to chase into a wild card race where we're down behind 5 different clubs. And let me just say this, the National League is what it is. It's a really tough league, and we know that, but I think we're tough too. And I'm not sure that when we walk into town, teams are celebrating either when we walk in for 3 games. So hopefully we give those teams a lot to think about and a lot to handle. And hopefully by the end of July, we're one of those teams that's clawing at those 5 teams, 6 teams maybe, to go by. And that's what my intention is, to be honest with you.
Jack, what do you think hearing that from Mike Hazen?
Not surprising at all. I mean, the team is playing a little bit better, so of course he's going to be a little bit more forceful. The key takeaways are, look, he's not going to pull the rug out from under the players that are fighting hard to play and win. They're playing a little bit better of late, but as he said, he's not an idiot. Obviously, if the bottom fell out of their record and their competitiveness and they were very far out with many teams in between, then he's going to do the responsible thing as well. I think that the biggest thing that people should take away from this is don't expect anything to happen right away. The very last 8 seconds of that, he says, when we get to the end of July, hopefully we're one of the teams that's clawing away at an opportunity and putting themselves in that position to be buyers. So, you're looking at the last week or so of July before things get really serious in those phone calls. Everything before that's exploratory. Now, if the D-backs were to pull the trigger on some kind of early deal, which I don't think they're going to do, but if they did, it's going to have to be a player that's got multiple years of control. Mike Hazen is not going to make a deal in June to go get, a David Bednar or somebody that's a free agent at the end of this year. It's got to be somebody that's got at least 1+ years of control or 2+ years of control or more, I think, for him to go ahead and pull the trigger in June, unless something just, fell out of the tree that was too good to turn down. I mean, that does happen from time to time. But more likely, especially if you're looking at any kind of rentals type players that are free agents at the end of this year, then that's certainly going to be something that he's not going to pull the trigger on until the end, the last week or so of July. That's the biggest takeaway for me.
So as of the time of this recording, this is the end of play on Sunday. The Diamondbacks are 3.5 games out of the 3rd wildcard spot. The Padres are the team that occupies that 3rd wildcard spot right now, so they gained some ground there. There are, Jack, 3 teams separating them from the Padres. The Cardinals, who are just half a game in front of them. The Reds, who are also half a game in front of them. And then the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 2 games in front of them right now at 39 and 34. So the Diamondbacks are 3.5 out, and they would effectively have to jump over 4 teams in order to actually be in the wild card picture themselves. So just so everyone knows kind of where they stand right now. I am also not too surprised by anything that Hazen said there. I think my takeaway is that the Diamondbacks are... It does not appear that the Diamondbacks are looking at the opportunity that they could have to honestly rule at the trade deadline. I mean, their phones could be going off the hook if they decided to sell, right? With Josh Naylor, with Geno Suarez, with Merrill Kelly, with Zac Gallen, with Shelby Miller, with Randall Grichuk, all of these guys on expiring contracts that I think a lot of teams would have interest in. It does not appear that Mike Hazen is really factoring in that into his calculus. Like his default is to be aggressive, and he's not going to wane on that just because it's such a golden opportunity for him to sell. Like if you give Mike Hazen an excuse to buy at the trade deadline, he's gonna, like, that is his default mode. And you can understand that. And I think you can also appreciate it, even if, frankly, Jack, it could blow up in the D-backs' face. Like, let's face it, if they were in a situation similar to where they are now and they buy in at the trade deadline and give up some assets, there's a pretty decent chance that it would have been better in retrospect if they had sold. Because if you don't make the playoffs, then what was the point, right? And especially in this case where you could have gained all of these assets potentially by selling off these expiring contracts. But I think if you're a D-backs fan, like, you probably appreciate that. I mean, Hazen is in this to win, right? This team was built to win, and I think that's the most likely outcome here, barring the Diamondbacks really falling out of it here in the next month or so.
Absolutely. Michael McDermott wrote our series takeaway article over at Arizona Diamondbacks on SI. And he talked about this aspect, and he said there's 32 games left between now and July 23rd for Mike Hazen to kind of dial in and figure out what he wants to do. And if they go, say, 18-14 in those games, they put themselves a good 5 games over 500, then they'll be in a position to go for it, I think. Unless everybody else around them is doing much, much better than that. They still have 10 games left against the Padres. They got 4 against the Brewers, so they control some of their own destiny there. Unfortunately, they got smoked by the Cardinals in St. Louis, and they already lost the season series to Cincinnati. So they can't afford tiebreakers with those 2 teams. They just need those 2 teams to just kind of go away. And whether or not they do, who knows, right? Everyone's waiting for the Cardinals to collapse, and they haven't. So
they haven't collapsed, but they've definitely fallen down in the standings. They're just 2 games over 500 now. Have lost 7 of their last 10. So jury's still out on the Cardinals, Jack. I'm a little skeptical there.
Oh, I'm not touting them. I'm just saying it hasn't happened yet. Losing 7 out of 10 isn't a collapse. They can win the next 2.
If 7 out of 10 was a collapse, then the Diamondbacks would be dead by now, right? Because they were much worse than that there for a couple of weeks. These next couple of weeks, though, Jack, are particularly important if you're the Diamondbacks. I mean, every game is important, but this is a unique opportunity. The D-backs go to Toronto next for 3 games against the Blue Jays, Tuesday through Thursday. The Blue Jays are a good team. They're above 500. But after that, you've got 3 on the road against the Rockies, 3 on the road against the White Sox, and then the D-backs have an off day. They come back to Chase Field for 3 against the Miami Marlins. That is 9 games in a row against 3 of the weakest teams in all of baseball. That's an opportunity where the D-backs can really get over the hump and not just be playing this, couple games under 500, couple games over 500, kind of going back and forth. This is a window where the team could really gain some ground in the standings and set themselves up to be buyers and maybe even make up some more ground in July.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before with that kind of thinking, and we've seen how it's worked out. And they haven't, they've gone through some soft spots in the schedule, and they haven't been able to capitalize as well as they should have. But they are playing better baseball of late, so, certainly you hope that carries over. As we saw on Sunday, momentum in baseball, right? It's as good as the next day's starter. Nick Pivetta shut them down on Sunday. Pitched to the top of the zone. They got 2 hits off him. I mean, that's all it takes is like one really good pitcher to knock you into a slump. At the same time, their middle relief, they're not able to consistently keep games close. I mean, you can only count on being able to come back and bludgeon your way to victory despite your bullpen giving up runs in the middle and late innings. So, somehow, some way, the guys they have to pitch better. They're still not. I mean, I think it was their best heading into yesterday. It was their best week ERA wise, but then they gave up 7 runs yesterday and 8 today. So I got to go back and look it up. But heading into yesterday's game, it was their best single week of ERA this season. But it was 2-something. Now it's got to be 4-something. I mean, they're just not making headway in lowering that ERA and getting their pitching staff to a league average level. Again, with this offense, give me a league average pitching staff and, they'll rule the roost. But they're far from average on the pitching side, and they're not getting any closer. The guys that they have that should be pitching better are not, on a consistent basis, such as Gallen and Fought. And, outside of Shelby Miller and Jalen Beeks, there isn't anybody that's been even remotely reliable out of that bullpen. So they got a long ways to go for me to prove that they can actually pitch well enough to stay in this thing.
Friday, was that Friday? Yeah, Friday was a weird day, Jack, where Ryan Nelson pitched those 5 solid innings, and then the bullpen in innings 6 through 9 just like mowed down the Padres. I think all 4 guys faced the minimum or something like that. Just such a weird thing to watch. It's almost off-putting. Like, what is this? This is not normal. What happened? But yeah, the D-backs need more of that in the coming days. And I think what you said earlier about how there's probably nothing coming soon in terms of trades. This is what they have here for a while. And to your point, they're going to have to do better with what they have than what we've seen here recently. Well, we are excited to be back with another show tomorrow, although maybe it's today if some of you are watching or listening to this on Monday. We will have another episode on Monday in the afternoon, early evening hours, doing a mailbag episode, so keep a lookout on social media as we ask for questions. We always enjoy doing that. I might as well give you all the plan for the rest of the week as well. We will be live after Wednesday's game in Toronto, so no show on Tuesday. We'll be live after the Wednesday game, and then we'll also be live after the Thursday game as that Blue Jays series concludes. So those are our 3 shows planned here for this upcoming week. We very much appreciate all of you supporting us along the way. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Drop a like on this video. Leave a comment. We always love hearing from you. If you haven't already, you can follow us on social media as well. I am at Jesse and Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59, and our show is at Snakes Territory. Jack, anything else here on this Sunday night?
Also, in addition to following me, if you get a chance, check out at DBacks on SI over on X platform. If you follow that account, you will never miss an article that we write.
There you go. A lot of great stuff coming out over there. Jack, as always, does a great job covering the team on that website. You can find his work as well as the work of all of his writers over there at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. Well, thank you all again so much for being with us here today. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory on Monday evening.